Hey everybody, I'm Andrea Olson with Go Diaper Free, and I'm going to record my next episode, 97, for my podcast right now for you. This is water. It's raining outside. I had to ask my sitter to stay a little bit longer. So here we go. Let's record this episode. It's about ECing boys. Let's do this. Welcome to the Go Diaper Free podcast, where we're all about helping you potty your baby as early as birth. I'm your host, Andrea Olson, author and mom of 5 EC'd babies, all EC'd from birth, all out of diapers by walking. This is episode 97, ECing boys. Differences, similarities, and tips. So you can read the written version of today's show over at godiaperfree.com/97, where I'm also going to link to all the things I mentioned in today's show. I will also be replying to comments over there, so come on by when you're finished. So today, I'm going to talk about boys and EC. And I just want to mention up front, because we have a very diverse community here, that we would not be complete without. If you call your child by another pronoun, I invite you to replace boy with their pronoun, and then we can all be on the same page. And secondly, I want to name it because it is also important. If you don't believe in gender differences at all, I hear you and I respect your choice. And this episode will probably be a little bit of a waste of your time, so you might want to skip it. But it has been requested by those mamas and daddies in our community who do see differences as a positive thing that can help them to better understand and care for their babies. So feel free to skip this one, and I'll see you next time, loves, if that's you. So this episode is all about how to EC boys. What is different, what is the same, and what tips do I have having EC'd 3 boys and 2 girls myself from birth. Hopefully I can share some perspective and make things a little easier for all, given my experience, but I'm also going to share some super thoughtful tips that are from readers and followers in our Go Diaper Free community who have boys. So to start with, the question I've gotten a lot is, how is EC different with boys versus girls? We'll go through this category by category, starting with outcomes. When can I expect them to be potty independent? At what age? So I want to share my outcomes briefly with you first to say, and I'll do that in a second, but we have experienced a slight difference in EC outcomes from what I've seen with my boys and girls. Our girls were reliably dry by about 15 months and our boys by 17 months. But we are a very small sample size. We are only 5. This is merely just for some personal perspective. Within the greater group of potty training mamas and daddies in our community, not EC, I've learned that independence does not vary by age. It is not true that boys are more difficult to potty train or take longer than girls. And that's just the truth. It is not true that's what everybody else says, but it's not true. They are simply different, and it's different in the way that you attack potty training slightly. Having had your specific child since birth, all of you listening, you will probably know the differences between your children more than me, especially if you have a girl and a boy and you have something to, like a yardstick to compare off of. Now, as for other parents' EC experiences with boys and girls, things just vary from what I've seen over the last 10 years. I have heard boys complete earlier than girls. Boys have no potty pause, girls have potty pause, and vice versa. I have seen twin boys complete with no issue at all at 15 months. I've seen triplet girls be totally done at 21 months. There are so many variations. It just varies. And I really believe that the potty independence age has more to do with the child's temperament and what the parent does when they are taken out of diapers, etc., than gender. A whole mix of variables come into play. So anyway, here's a peek into my own family's EC outcomes so you can have some context and sort of see some examples. My experience does not mean that yours will be the same, but I think it's helpful to look at us as an example, especially where temperament comes into play. And then we'll get into the details of how-tos, penis aiming, and other such things that parents of boys need to know. All right. My first son was out of diapers at 9 months during the day, telling us every time he needed to go by 17 months. 26 months, he was dry at night. He was a high needs baby who crawled early at 5 months, which was so soon for me. He walked and talked at 9 months, and he was not happy at all until he was fully mobile. My first daughter was out of diapers at 13 months, telling us every time by 15 months. 26 months, she was nighttime dry. She was high needs in the beginning with major colic, but otherwise developmentally normal. At 15 months, she could only say pee for her signal and said very few other words. My second son, out of diapers at 17 months, 26 months, he was dry at night. He was a super chill baby and kind of lazy about everything. I could have taken him out of diapers at 12 months, but I was being lazy as well. He never pooped in them and he hardly peed in them. He was fairly independent by 18 months. My third son was out of diapers at 12 months. 26 months, dry at night, just like everybody else. He was a chill baby until he was 16 months when the major tantrums began, but he rarely resisted the potty. He just had a little bit of a month there at 12 to 13 months when he just tested us and, we stayed the course. It was the only thing that he felt he could control, this pottying, so he didn't have major tantrums around it after that. He was also fairly independent by 17 months. And my second daughter, my last child, was out of diapers at 12 months. 17 months, she was dry at night, way earlier than any of my other kids. Very high needs baby because of lip and tongue ties that we resolved early on. And after we resolved them, she was a very chill baby. She's been the easiest with EC of all of them. At 18 months, she's still fairly nonverbal. She hardly says any words at all. She certainly doesn't signal to go to the bathroom with any words. She was fairly independent at 15 months when we switched from trainers to undies. So you can see that each of them became fairly independent, which means reliably dry and could do most things other than like take their pants on and off or wipe by about 15 to 17 months of just my children. My girls were slightly earlier than my boys, but I wouldn't say it was significant enough to change your own expectations with your son or daughter. Like our friend Gina, mom of 3 babies, 1 boy and 2 girls, says, establish a routine of putting your baby on the potty. It's no different than eating and sleeping routines. Incorporating potty time into your daily routine will guarantee more catches and less misses. And what I want to say after what Gina brilliantly said is this is the same, whether we have a boy or a girl. We do the same exact thing with EC, boy or girl. We have the same exact expectations, boy or girl. We do the same exact troubleshooting, whether we have a boy or a girl, with the exception of aiming. Since there aren't huge differences in outcome from what I've seen across the hundreds of thousands of people I've helped to do EC, I have to say that conclusively, it really just depends. I know, very scientific of me. Since potty independence and outcomes are roughly the same between genders who do really early potty training in EC, let's next talk about logistics. Working with the penis instead of the vagina. Our children have adopted their own names for these parts. They call them a peenie and a yoni. I just want to make a quick note on what to call the private parts. I would definitely teach the proper name for these parts. So if there is ever a situation, God forbid, where the child is trying to tell a teacher or another adult that someone has tried to touch them there, and yes, this does happen, that the adult will understand exactly what the child is speaking about. Interchangeably, feel free to use whatever term or nickname you'd like to at home because it's your home, but definitely teach them the real words as well. In this show, I'm going to refer to the boys' parts as a peenie or a penis. Please don't send me a nastygram as much as I love receiving them. Thank you. All right, so first topic, peeing straight out. Both of my girls peed straight out from newborn to 4 months old, and then they began to pee straight down. Just a note about girls. My first boy peed straight down, my second boy peed straight out, and my third boy peed straight down. All 3 of them are intact, have not been circumcised, but my friend with a circumcised baby reported that her boy also peed straight down. I've heard it all. In our community, there are mixed reports. What I've deduced is that it doesn't matter whether your boy is intact or not, the pee will go a certain direction as a default, whatever that happens to be, and there are some ways to mitigate damages. So, peeing during diaper changes. Amanda L. shares, I started with the easy catches, more specifically pottying at diaper changes since my son was peeing all over the place then anyway. So offering the potty at a diaper change is a great way to avoid being peed on right when you remove the diaper, especially with a boy who can pee right into your face. They make something called a PPTP for non-ECers, but for us, we will remove the diaper while standing up with the baby if possible and offer the potty before there's a chance for this to happen. It is not the cold air that causes them to pee when their diaper is removed. It is the fact that finally she took this thing off of me or he took this off of me. I need to go pee. Diaper change is a great easy catch, especially early on. Let's talk about aiming next. You can aim either by pressing down on the penis gently, by choosing a better potty, or by tilting your potty. Let's talk about these. So with a boy, use one of your free fingers to point the penis down into the toilet, sink, or potty. You're holding him into the Classic EC hold. His back is against your chest. You're holding gently underneath his thighs. And since your hands are right there underneath his thighs, you just use one of your fingers to push down on the penis. There is a photo of what that looks like over on the show notes at godiaperfree.com/97. If you're over a toilet or sink, press down on the penis to aim. With a girl, if she pees straight out like mine did at first, the only way to aim is to cup your own hand over the stream and aim it down. I would also put a towel behind the sink or a towel rim or the toilet rim to catch any misaimed pee, whether it's a girl or a boy. And by the way, I just want to mention, our girls stopped peeing straight out after a few months, but meanwhile, we did protect our counters. So next, when using a top hat potty, if your boy or girl pees straight out, all you have to do is tilt the top hat potty toward you a little bit. It's between your legs, held between your legs, and aim the stream into the potty that way by tilting the potty. Use your finger to press the penis down if you have a boy. This can also give you a good hint about whether your boy or girl has gone at all. You'll feel the pee on your finger. I always did this, at least had a finger in the stream, so I didn't have to keep checking if they had peed and pulling them off the top hat potty to look. But alas, you do get wet with this method. So here's a photo of tilting the top hat potty towards you. It's over on the show notes. You'll see that. Now, if they're on a mini potty, you want to scoot their bottom back away from the front of the potty and lean them slightly forward. So they're going to be facing you on the potty in front of you on the ground. Or you can get a mini potty with a high splash guard like ours at Tiny Undies. And there's a photo of that as well, pushing them a little bit further back on the mini potty and tilting their body forward. Now, if you're using a toilet reducer when your baby is older on the big toilet, get one with a high splash guard, like the rubbery one that's on the one made by Ginsey. And there's a link to that as well. They have characters on them, but my kids don't watch TV. They just love the characters. Now, if you have zero success with any of these aiming techniques and spray is going everywhere, girl or boy, you can temporarily potty your baby by laying a towel over the edge of the bathtub and just set your baby facing away from you on the towel, holding them by the chest so that they can feel supported, so that the pee sprays into the tub and any dribbles are caught by the towel. There is also a picture of that on the blog post. Just insert a towel with your imagination. I took it with just showing the position. Next, let's talk about touching the penis before or during going. This is something you may not have ever heard about, the effects of touching the penis. So touching the penis while peeing can either influence them to stop peeing or influence them to start peeing, depending entirely on the baby. I've seen a nature video one time on baby pandas, where like brand new newborns, where if the mommy panda didn't lick the baby's genitals within a certain time period after birth to physically cue them to defecate, the baby would die from constipation, for real. Obviously, we're not licking panda bear genitals right now. Hello. That's really weird because we're humans. We have different things that we do to keep our babies from being constipated. But it is a real thing that being touched there will either make them stop or start, just from the people in our community reporting this back, and I would say the same. And the only reason we're touching the penis is to aim it. So experiment with this. Does your aiming him stop him from going midstream? This is a thing for some babies. If that's you, aim the penis down before he starts so your touch doesn't interrupt his concentration. Okay. So, and if your baby will just sit over the top at potty forever and won't go until you touch, then that means that we've got a mammalian thing going on here where that touch goes, okay, well, and I need to go. So that's just something that is very obscure that only ECers know and talk about that I wanted to share. A final note on aiming. You don't want to hold their penis as if you've got, like if you're a man with a penis, you're going to hold your penis to pee into the toilet, right? A baby's won't really be that easy to hold. So this is why we put our finger on top of it or two fingers and press. Just sort of push it against their body very gently, and that's how you aim it. Now let's talk about signaling or not and signs that a baby boy needs to pee. So it doesn't matter if your baby is a boy or a girl. Signals come and go based on what they're working on developmentally. And we talked about that in podcast number 27. So let's hear a tip from one of our GDF community baby boy mamas, Sarah M. from Switzerland. Quote, "My son is 10 months old, and since it's winter here in Switzerland, I cannot really have him without clothes, so observation is kind of difficult. But I have noticed that my son shivers when he does a pee, and it's very easy to know when he's doing a poo. He is not signaling or letting me know he wants to pee, but more or less, I've started to notice his patterns and I'm using that to my advantage and putting him on the potty. So far, so good. Almost every time I sit him, he does a pee. I hope he will start telling me beforehand, but nobody knows her baby like a mother. So I'd say, trust the voice that tells you it's time to go potty. End quote. That was beautiful. So whether you have a boy or girl, if your baby doesn't signal, just go with the other 3 roads to potty time, as I call them. These are natural timing, transition times, and intuition. It's all in my book. If you don't have that, get it. You can learn their natural timing, how often they go, with some observation. We talked about that in episode 83.5a. We had a bunch during that week. And this is all, again, linked in the show notes, so don't remember any of this, but just come through and you can listen to whichever one you want to. But I really want to stop focusing on the fact that there are no signals with your baby boy. You don't need them to be successful at EC, and we are living proof in our home. Now, as for signs that a baby boy needs to pee, the peenie weenie is something that ECers affectionately call when a baby boy gets an erection right before peeing. I think this is Mother Nature's way of helping to aim the stream, honestly. I've noticed when my boys got older that this happens to give them something more substantial to hold on to when they go outdoors, like when they're 2 or 3 years old, peeing on all the plants. Baby boys get them too. The erection can give you confirmation that pee is about to happen, so if you see one during diaper-free observation time, feel free to potty him or cue along, and hopefully don't get peed on yourself. A good signal that a toddler boy needs to pee is grabbing at his penis, a pee-pee dance. Of course, girls grab their genitals too, and both sexes pull at their pants or point at their bottoms if they need to go. There's a video of this toddler pee signal, this specific one, over on the show notes as well. GoDiaperFree.com/97, and you'll see that. So circumcision recovery and EC, let's talk about that really quickly. If you've circumcised your baby boy, there is a healing stage of approximately 8 days where he may feel pain and may be fussy. I've known a mama who persisted with EC during this period anyway, and told me that it helped him feel relief, having his diaper off and being free from the bandage, the gauze, during potty time. She did not notice that peeing freely caused him pain, which makes sense. Why would it? Next, we'll talk about clothing, undies, and backups. Clothing, undies, and backups are interchangeable between boys and girls. All the stuff I sell at Tiny Undies is all unisex. Some mamas, including myself, put their boys in baby chaps when they're outdoors when they're like 12 to 18 months old, because it's easier for them to stand and pee without having to take off their clothing when hanging out outside all day. Now, with a girl in baby chaps, they have to know to squat, or the pee will dribble all over into the pant legs. With a boy who pees straight out, chaps are great. With a boy who pees straight down, the pee will also dribble all over into the pant legs, and the chaps will be ineffective. But that's just an idea for those of you with a boy who pees out. Now, other than that, just see my ultimate guide to EC backups. It's linked to on the notes for more ideas of backups. And no, they don't differ per gender. Always use whatever backup works best to keep your baby driest at that time, keep you the most sane, and keep your baby aware of what's going on down there, and use them and reuse what you have for future babies, regardless of gender. Now, wiping. I will speak from experience here. My girls showed an earlier interest in wiping their bottoms than my boys. Maybe this is because girls' yonis require wiping from the beginning, and penises do not require wiping. And a bit more of a habit has been modeled and built over time for the girls. I can't be certain. But what I do know is that it is helpful to teach and model wiping early on with both sexes. And we've also found that children are typically fully capable of effectively wiping their own bottoms by about 3 years old, boy or girl. My girls have been more willing to learn to wipe a bit earlier in the 2 to 3 year range, but maybe that's just mine. Either way, if you're sitting at 3 years old and they still want you to wipe their bums and you don't want to do it anymore, it's time to teach. I have a video about how to teach your child to wipe their own bottom over on the show notes. So lastly, we're going to talk about physicality versus verbal tendencies. Physicality and verbosity are not indicators of potty success. I'm getting very technical. Boys and girls tend to have different ways of understanding and executing potty tasks, and different is not better or worse than one another. I found that my boys are more physical in the way that they respond to my teaching than my girls, who are more cerebral about it. Yours may or may not be the same. WhatToExpect.com says, quote, after reviewing 46 previous studies, Canadian researchers concluded that baby boys are bigger wiggle worms than baby girls. They squirm more on the changing table, get restless in the stroller, and crawl over longer distances, for example, end quote. They also say, quote, one milestone that girls and boys do consistently hit at different times is talking. Girls start about a month earlier than boys on average, sometime in the first half of the second year. British researchers found that girl babies had significantly larger vocabularies than boys as early as 18 and 24 months. Okay, this sounds like science you can depend on, but it doesn't necessarily 100% indicate potty success. My 5th baby, Twyla, hardly says a word. She's been the most straightforward, easiest EC baby by far. Even without words, she aims to stay dry and has that area of her life all buttoned up. She is satisfied and nonverbal. So even though many boys are rough and tumble and many girls are a bit more careful and a little bit more concerned with their hygiene, there are so many situations where these characteristics are flipped. It's so inconclusive. What advice I'd give to you then is what Jen from Frankfurt, Germany has to say. Quote, my advice, accept your situation and your baby's way of doing EC. Don't compare. Insist in a gentle and non-frustrating way. Don't give up, but don't stress about it. In German, we say everything can, nothing has to happen, end quote. So in summary, if your baby boy or girl is fairly verbose, great. You will see that manifest in EC and you will use more words to guide them verbally. If your baby boy or girl is mostly physical, great. Use that in your EC practice by saying less and doing, demonstrating, and physically teaching more. Okay, so in conclusion, there are a few general motifs and differences between girls and boys, depending on how you look at things or which studies you read or which children you observe. However, with EC, these differences are much more subtle than the differences in potty training toddler boys and girls. You know, the average age of training girls is 36 months right now in the US, and I think boys is like 38 or 39 months. It takes longer, it's harder, because you're waiting so long that their personalities have already established. I believe that starting potty learning at 0 to 15 months, doing EC, makes gender differences much less important. The personality has, yes, already begun to develop, but it's not quite so rigid as it is with a 2 or 3-year-old. Earlier almost always gives you a leg up. So consider your baby's temperament today, more than his or her gender, and try to remember that every single EC path is different. Yes, there are trends we've noticed, but ultimately your path is your path. I really hope this episode has been useful to those of you with boys who may have found some helpful tips inside it. And now I'd like to hear from you. And maybe if you have girls, it's been useful as well. I'd like to hear from you over on the written version of this podcast at godiaperfree.com/97. And let me know there, which of these tips are you going to try with your boy baby, your baby boy? What other tips do you have that I may have missed? I want to know your opinions over there. We'll talk there. I'll see you over there. And until next time, when we talk about what to do when the first time is not the charm when first trying EC, till then, happy pottying, y'all. I'm Andrea Olson, and you've been listening to the Go Diaper Free podcast at godiaperfree.com, and I'll talk to you next time. Hoo-wee, that was a lot. Okay, I hope you learned some great, wonderful new things. Again, remember, if you're gender neutral or you use different pronouns, great. This episode is more for those people who identify with their children being boys and being called that. Different does not mean better or worse. I'm full on about how neither gender is better or worse than the other. So just make that clear. Don't comment about that below. This is a super safe space. So if you have any questions about ECing boys, please write them below and let us know what thing you've learned today. I look forward to seeing you down there. Hit the bell and subscribe, and I'll let you know when the next video is up. Take care.